Welcome to Mindful Matters, the podcast where calm conversation meets everyday life. Let's take a breath and begin.
Welcome back to Mindful Matters, being Mindful Matters. Like I said before, I do a lot of study and research on topics, and there's a few that I stay with, and then I might jump off to a different topic, but they're pretty much in the same area of topics. And right here, excuse me, I'll post a link with this understanding autism across developmental stages. Okay, autism is not a moment. It's a developmental journey. The signs do not suddenly appear. They unfold as the child grows, interacts, and encounters new social and sensory demands. This is why autism can look very different at 6 months, 6 years, and 16 years. What changes is not the child's neurology, but the environmental expectations placed around them. Well, I know that firsthand. Like I said before, I'm no professional, but I'm, a little educated in quite a few areas, and autism is one. I don't know it all, but I know enough. Okay, infancy, roughly 0 to 12 months. Connection before communication. In the first year of life, okay, autism shows up not as behavior problems, but as difference in connection. Okay, a baby may seem harder to soothe, less responsive to faces, and less engaged in the back and forth rhythm of early bonding. These are not signs of disinterest. They are signs of a nervous system that processes the world differently. Early support here focuses on strengthening co-regulation, sensory comfort, and predictable routines. Predictable routines. Toddler years, roughly 12 to 24 months. Okay, when milestones diverge. This is the stage where many parents first notice something feels different, and that was me with Nevaeh. Speech delays, limited pointing, and repetitive movements are not signs of defiance. They are signs of a brain communicating in its own way. Okay, toddlers with autism often rely on movement, sensory exploration, and hand leading because spoken language and social gestures require neurological pathways that develop differently for them. Okay, in the beginning, again, not talking about my daughter. I'm going to just, it's an example. I'm doing everything I can to help her right now. She started babbling and, crawling and then eventually taking steps and walking. Okay, she was walking fine and she was saying a few words at 2, uh, and older. Some months later, she quit talking and went back to crawling. And that lasted for probably a couple of years. So I've seen that side. It was the beginning or the end of the toddler years and the beginning of the early childhood years. If I remember correctly. Okay, early childhood, roughly 2 to 4 years. Communication and play differences. As play becomes more social and language becomes more functional, autistic children may show echolalia, okay, limited pretend play, or difficulty following instructions. These are not won't do behaviors, they are can't do yet skills. Excuse me. Their interest may be intense or specific, which is not a flaw but a doorway into learning. Support at this age focuses on communication scaffolding, sensory regulation, and structured play. Preschool years, early school age, roughly 4 to 7 years. Social rules become demanding. Okay, school introduces complex expectations, and they do. Sharing, group work, transitions, noise, and unpredictable routines. Autistic children may struggle not because they are misbehaving, but because the environment is overwhelming. Their strengths, focus, creativity, deep interests may shine in some areas while challenges appear in others. Teachers often become the first to notice patterns that parents may not see at home. This is why I try to stress for parents and caregivers to please educate yourself. It's good to help your child along. Try not to let somebody else do it. They're your child, not theirs. Middle childhood, roughly 8 to 12 years. The hidden struggle. This is the age where autism feels misunderstood as anxiety, defiance, or emotional dysregulation. Children may hold it together all day and melt down at home because masking is exhausting. Literal thinking, difficulty with jokes, okay, and a strong need for predictability are not immaturity. They are neurological realities. Support here focuses on emotional literacy, predictable routines, and reducing the pressure to mask. They try to hide whatever issues that they have out of social anxiety and embarrassment. Teenage years, roughly 13 to 18 years. Adolescent magnifies every social demand. Okay, so autistic teens may experience anxiety, depression, or withdrawal, not because they don't care about connection, but because navigating friendships, sensory overload, and identity becomes overwhelming. Their special interests often become coping tools and a source of confidence. What they need most is understanding, acceptance, and adults who validate their experience rather than dismiss it. Don't overlook. You're cheating the child when you don't help them. Okay, autism is not a checklist. It is a spectrum of neurological differences that reveal themselves over time. A child does not need to show every sign to be autistic. What matters is noticing patterns, trusting instincts, and seeking support early. Autism is not about deficits, okay? It's about differences in their communication, their sensory processing, and social understanding. Okay, differences that can thrive with the right support. This is why I continue to learn. There's you're not going to know everything. They're continuing to study it and um, do research on it. I do what I can. Like I say, I don't know it all, but I'm pretty educated in it enough to help my children. And I just want to pass along this information for parents and caregivers to help their children. Understanding is a key. Have a good day. Stay safe and peaceful.